You may remember Dick Gregory as the hip, acid-tongued nightclub comedian of the 60s whose outspoken political views so rankled the FBI that an internal memo called him demented. Or you might remember him as the civil rights activist, or the man who fasted for nearly 2 years to protest the Vietnam War, or the man who has devoted himself to stamping out world hunger. At 57, his life has been more chaotic than calm, but he says that's what happens when you walk the path he's chosen.
I chose to be an agitator. And there's one interesting thing about being an agitator. And I tell people, the next time you put your underwear in the washing machine, take the agitator out. And all you're going to end up with is some dirty, wet drawers.
There's coming to a time now when you can't worry about jail.
Gregory was a strident voice in the fight for civil rights. His activities often got him beaten up or landed him in jail. In the mid-50s, he broke the color barrier and became the first black comedian to be able to do stand-up comedy in white nightclubs.
The cops just give black folks in this town tickets for just awful, outrageous things. You know, like failing to yield the right of way to an alley cat. Drinking under the influence of watermelon.
To protest the Vietnam War, he fasted for nearly 2 years and ate no solid food.
And so the only way I can demonstrate a moral commitment to the young, beautiful kids in this country is by making this self-sacrifice.
In 1973, at the height of his career, Gregory gave up nightclub performing to devote his energies to helping fight world hunger. And along the way, he developed an interest in nutrition. He's been married for 30 years, the father of 10 children, and the author of a dozen books. He's a spiritual man, and he's a devout entrepreneur.
And I said, if you're going to be born and raised in this country, be an entrepreneur. And be an entrepreneur. That's the greatest welfare system I know, is entrepreneurship.
How so?
Well, I mean, you know, I take a prostitute all the way around the world with me if I want to, as long as I call her my secretary. It's a tax write-off. I mean, we business people, we can go and buy all the booze we want to buy for lunch, and a welfare mother would have trouble trying to get free apple juice for the baby. It's just so insane. But this country is set up for entrepreneurship, and if you're not going to be an entrepreneur, you should leave. This system is for entrepreneurship.
And it's something he advocates every chance he gets.
Wait a minute.
Although often it's Gregory the comedian the audience gets to hear.
Do none of that. We black folks need to pool our money together and open us up some black greeting card companies. Now, I'm not saying Hallmark. Hallmark is pretty. Hallmark got some stuff. Hallmark got some stuff that is so beautiful on them cards, make you just want to buy 90 million of them. But it's the message just don't have that ghetto vibration. Open up a Hallmark, the crow dark sings as sweetly as the lark. Nigga, do you love me or not? All I need is just some simple cards with a simple vibration. I ain't gonna do it no more. Give me another chance, baby. I know what you're thinking, but she hit on me first.
He never strays far from his favorite subject, black and white.
Hey, baby, understand one thing? White ain't got nothing to do with no color. White is an attitude, and if you ain't got some big billions of bucks in the bank, you can't even play the game.
Well, Dick Gregory has big bucks, and he surely knows how to play the game. He has parlayed his interest in nutrition and feeding the hungry into a multi-million-dollar diet business called Dick Gregory Enterprises. And last year, he sold the franchise rights for his Slim Safe Bahamian diet for a reported $30 million.
Do you think people would find it somewhat of a paradox to see a man who is such an activist, who has so long been connected with so many causes, who is almost an ascetic in his lifestyle, parts of it, to be such a wealthy man?
No, I think you'd probably be surprised, but I've always made money. I made money when I was a child. I made money when I was on welfare. I just didn't tell nobody about it. And
yeah, but we're talking about millions and millions of dollars here.
No, I don't think so. I'm sure. I'm sure they're shocked not shocked because of, I don't act the way you think wealthy people are supposed to act. I love who? Myself. I love who? Myself. I love who? Myself. I love who?
Today, Dick Gregory's pet project is the health spa business. But the kind of people that are most visible here at his spa on Florida's West Coast don't look much like folks who frequent places like the Golden Door and La Costa.
260.
He has taken on the task of treating what is called the morbidly obese, people whose weight actually threatens their lives.
This is going to be the first breathing exercise, so move it in.
Although many of these are non-paying customers who Gregory has taken on as a special project, there are, of course, the paying customers who plunk down somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,000 a week to be trimmed down to fighting weight.
Thank you. Weigh in. Take your time.
Gregory says that in the old days, he weighed 300 pounds, drank a fifth of scotch a day, and smoked 4 packs of cigarettes. But he's given all that up, and now, dripping wet, he weighs in at 135. How did you start this?
Oh, I started it because I started getting so many phone calls of people crying out for help. People saying, I'm thinking about committing suicide. I can't help them. I didn't know what to do. And I really felt bad about it. And one day I decided that if I could take a group and could really dramatize them on the press, and maybe we could wake America's conscience up where the Congress and the Senate would pass legislation. That's the only reason I got into it. For instance, Blue Cross Blue Shield, they're not covered. Medicare, they're not covered. Most doctors and most hospitals don't know what to do with the morbid obese, and yet there's 34 million Americans obese. There's 100 million that's overweight.
You think these people are fat? Keep in mind, they've already lost hundreds of pounds.
Now, Janita, the girl in the pink, when we got her, she was 550. She's below 3 now. And when I say below 3, I mean 3-something.
Right.
15 years old last year, she's 14. 2 major heart attacks, back surgery.
Well, look at that guy. He just went down.
Yeah.
How much did he win in?
He's 4-something, man. He's down from 1,023 to
1,000 pounds?
423.
When I walked in the first night and I met this gentleman, I said, wow, am I lucky? I said, wow. Can you imagine coming off the street and seeing him? And I got here about 7 o'clock at night. And you walk in the room and you see him, I said, oh my God, is I not gifted?
So he's about as big now as you were when you came here, huh?
Yeah, I was 364.
Uh-huh.
480.
Yeah, close.
475.
Listen, when you're 600-700 pounds, what's 100 pounds?
Yeah, believe me. When you're losing them, they all count.
To an outsider, the regimen seems more like prison routine. They're not allowed off the property, have to be in bed early, up early, can't eat anything unless it's given to them by the staff.
Whatever you want, we'll make it vegetarian. You want pig's feet? We'll make it vegetarian for you.
What they push here is good nutrition and, of course, Dick Gregory's health food products. He relies on the staff to make sure things run smoothly. He seems to spend most of his time on planes and in airports, although he calls a farm in Massachusetts home.
I tried your diet. I love it. Thank you. All right, fine. Okay.
He imposes a back-breaking schedule on himself, crisscrossing the country and speaking out everywhere from college campuses to county jails. He speaks not only to bring attention to his current passions, health and nutrition. The agitator has some very definite opinions to share on just about everything. Most often, it's social justice.
Understand your power. We black folks in America last year, 28% of every Cadillac sold in America last year, black folks bought it, but we don't demand 28% of the jobs. We don't demand that General Motors hurry up and get out of South Africa. Think about a system that spends more money to put you in jail than it would cost to send you to Harvard. And you black folk, y'all the last ones ought to do crime. Because you know you're not going to get a fair shake when you get caught. And you poor white folks, ooh, you know, you ain't nothing but niggas. That's right. Oh, you know that.
What about the word nigger? You use it, you've used it here, you use it in your speeches, you use it in books. To a lot of people, it's still a red flag word.
Well,
to a lot of people, it's still an uncomfortable word to hear.
Well, I have to explain that 2 ways. One, I'm a social satirist. And I take privileges that social satires are able to take. You have to bring it out. And you have to talk about it. We black folks use the word nigger more in one day than all the white folk put together could use in a lifetime. We use it different, we use it affectionate, but you have to bring it out and bust it up and throw it down and knock it down, and then it's over. One thing we black folks got to do, we got to admit, there is some culture difference between black folks and white folks in America. And then a lot of you black folks get around white folks, and you even eat different. Yeah. Y'all get around white folks, y'all be eating so quiet. When you be in my house, I can hear your lips moving in the basement. And some of you black folks got nerve enough to get around white folks and try to eat fried chicken with a knife and a fork. And you know spiritually that don't even feel right. And eat it and don't get no grease on yourself. Come by my house, get grease all over my drapes.
There's a whole generation that grew up listening to Dick Gregory. And I don't know that you have the visibility today that you had before.
No, I don't.
But if he has anything to say about it, the nation will get to know him again through his fight to help the obese. Gregory says if we have programs to help drug addicts, we should be able to pass laws to help those who are equally addicted.
What we're trying to say is not this group here, but that group out there that's so fat and so obese and yet so invisible that we need legislation.
My goal is to really help change the priorities in this country. I would hope that I could get a leadership position, that I could change the whole food industry, because I think that this nation will never be a great nation, will never be a strong nation. Great nation is not a gun or a bomb or Air Force. A great nation is a nation that has the healthiest people mentally and physically.
301. 301.
Most of the people we met in Florida lost a lot of weight. Remember Mike? When he checked in, he was over 1,000 pounds and is now under 350. Janita went from 550 pounds to under 300. However, Gregory's Diet and Health Center in Florida has come under fire for mismanagement. He says he's moving the center to Cottonwood, Alabama, because he can get more for his money there. Gregory says his managerial skills aren't as good as his diet.
We intend to accomplish the one man, one vote. The Supreme Court of the United States have said that legislators have to be reapportioned, and we feel that this suit do not only affect Illinois or Chicago, but every state in the union, because they have seemed to have overlooked reapportionment of the courts. In the state of Illinois, we have 7 Supreme Court judges, and Chicago has 50.9% of the population. Chicago should have 3 Supreme Court judges. Cook County, we have none. We've been told that they're going to justify this, but we have to wait till the judges die. And I don't feel that I have to get a constitutional right or be protected under the one man, one vote out of the obituary column.
The Chicago suit, with its emphasis on the civil rights aspects, is just one part of
During the early morning lull in the riots, while it lasted, some Negro leaders met at the ambassador to talk with the press. They included comedian Dick Gregory, who was injured last night. Assemblyman Dimely spoke first.
The police must be blamed for everything that happened, but I do say this, that the absence of the police last night resulted in a great deal of looting and burning for 4 hours. I repeat, 4 hours. I stayed on the telephone calling the newspapers, the wire services on the police to come and provide some sort of protection to the people traveling in that area and to the citizens of that area, and to no avail.
Mervyn, yesterday at that meeting which was called, the Negro leaders said that if the police would stay out of that area, the rioting would subside. Now, this doesn't jibe with what you're just telling us. If the police stayed out and you still had riots, how do you gel those two things?
At 6 o'clock, I traveled that area and everything was calm. I remarked to my administrative assistant that the presence of large numbers of helmeted policemen was not conducive to good community relations. Now, had they not been there, I feel that this would not have happened. But after it did happen, then they did not come in an area where they should have been.
Dick Gregory spent 5 hours last night walking through the riot-torn area, pleading with rioters to go home.
Moved in, we withdrew and moved back across the street because we have no identification to distinguish us from any group that's standing on the corner. So in the process of moving back, the police moved in. We were standing behind the police's line when they were shooting at the police, and this is when I was hit. And we worry about tonight, but it is now before 10 o'clock, and we have many hours between now and tonight. Now, if we're going to throw our hands up and say it's going to happen tonight, we got to work with this just like a doctor works with a patient until it dies.
Robert Hall is a civil rights spokesman. He was asked why newsmen had been singled out for such rough treatment.
They say that you white reporters are not going to report the news the way it is, as far as the policemen grabbing Negro women off the street or grabbing Negro kids off of the street and beating them 5 and 10 people. So they say you're going to lie to the news, and so therefore they're going to give you something to report. They'll beat you, and then you report that because you tell them that you have in a more sophisticated way.
Did you watch the television reporting? Did you see what we put on last night?
Put I answer the press.
There's no reporter had his...
Dick Gregory didn't have as much time as he had thought to try to arrive at a truce, because it was just shortly after that press conference we saw that the fires were breaking out on 107th Street. And as our afternoon grows late, authorities are increasingly concerned about the number of fires and handguns known to be in the hands of the rioters.
As I was on a program in Mount Vernon the other night, and this rabbi, who was also on the panel, spent all of his time trying to get the so-called Negroes in the audience to weep over what Hitler did to the Jews. What you look like weeping over what Hitler did, and you haven't yet learned how to weep over what Uncle Sam is doing to you right now. Everything that Hitler did in Germany, he learned it from Uncle Sam. Hitler was not the author of white supremacy. Uncle Sam was practicing white supremacy long before Hitler was born. And Uncle Sam was burning black people in this country long before Hitler ever heard of the Jews. So when these Jews come up in your face trying to get you to cry for them over what happened to them, you tell them you don't have any tears left. You have shed too many tears for your own kind.
Indication that there might be trouble where you're going? Have you gotten any calls or been given any warning, anything of this sort?
No, I haven't had any. I've been in and out of Mississippi many times, and I just play it by ear. I figure if I can sit in a room and entertain a room full of drunks, I can go to Mississippi in a dry state.
I have it here. I got a hate letter. Well, I usually get hate letters. They usually start off, you nigger this, you nigger that. But can you imagine getting a hate letter like the 45th day of a fast, right? You haven't eaten nothing, right? 45 days without eating, you go down and you open your mail and you see this hate letter and you open it up and it says, "Dear Mr. Gregory, this is to inform you that yesterday for dinner I had fried chicken with gravy." And then you're aware for the first time that it's a black cat out there somewhere that hates you, right? I mean, you know, let's face it, we know you white folks eat a lot of fried chicken, but we know who eats it with gravy.
Even if you're Richard Gregory, running for president is not easy when you're $40,000 in debt. Gregory's six-man staff has its hands full just keeping the creditors at bay. His campaigning is done by car, somebody else's car. No press bus, no reporters, no televised news conferences. Just an occasional spot on a TV talk show. There are not even enough Gregory for President buttons to go around. Gregory may preach nonviolence, but he does not preach nonviolently.
I think the best way you can explain the Black Panthers to fools is tell them to go home, turn on television, and leave it on all week. And when Matt Dillon comes on, that's teaching you it's the virtue to shoot straight, that's a White Panther. What a Black Panther is, ain't Brother Matt's face black. And I'll tell you why. Just 100 years ago, when the black slave sister came to have...
Dick Gregory can still make people laugh, just like he used to do in the nightclubs. But nowadays, his humor is for a purpose, and not just for profit. And now he is playing to a much different kind of audience. Gregory spends the bulk of his time on college campuses, talking to young white students. 6 years ago, Gregory was one of the funniest comics in show business. He made $250,000 a year and wore hand-tailored suits to camouflage his excess weight. Today, Gregory is bankrupt, and dressed in a workman's suit, he is preaching nonviolence and campaigning as a write-in candidate for president.
I thought the whole world knew the first thing I would do after becoming president of the United States is paint the White House black. The second thing I would do would be to bring all the boys home from Vietnam and send LBJ. And I'd have Eartha Kitt call him up every morning and say, "We working on peace feelers, baby."
Most rich men who go broke don't mean to, but Dick Gregory did it on purpose. He left show business to take up a full-time career as the most prominent lone wolf in the civil rights movement. But Gregory says he would not have it any other way. The old Dick Gregory, the white man's Negro celebrity, is dead. Now there is Richard Gregory, the poor but proud black activist.
I went south, and I marched right next to the nuns, which I thought was the safest spot. Verse 7, you saw me up in front of the line, And in doing this, I got a manhood. It was the most beautiful manhood, because I really got to see Negroes and white folks that were scared. And I realized this wasn't an issue of black against white. It was the issue of right against wrong. The United States Constitution talks about justice. And I think that we're being shortchanged because everybody's worried about communism. If America could become as frightened over injustices as she is over communism and wipe it out with all the vigor she's trying to wipe out communism, this would be a groovy country, and that in itself would be the greatest blow in the history of communism.
Could Richard Gregory, the presidential candidate, ever go back to being Dick Gregory, the nightclub comedian?
No, never.
Hey, brother, what's the purpose of being here today? What's the purpose of being here today?
To be honest with you, some brothers called me up and asked me would I come by and
Dick Gregory can still be a very funny man, but it is a tragic humor to a much different kind of audience these days. He knows he hasn't a chance of making it to the White House, but this is one candidate who would rather be Richard Gregory than be president. Richard Threlkeld, CBS News, with the Gregory campaign.
Hunger strike in Tehran. Gregory arrived in Paris, fearful, he said, that the Iranian crisis could mushroom into World War III, unless it is resolved soon. The former comedian and civil rights activist, who weighed 155 pounds when he began his hunger strike, but who now weighs 110, warned that Russia is much more involved in Iran than most people think, and he urged the United States to do all it can to defuse tensions now. His suggestions: drop economic sanctions, unfreeze $8 billion worth of Iranian assets, send Secretary of State Muskie to Iran to negotiate the release of the American hostages.
The average person in the street feels that if the American government, if people are attacking Iranians in America because of the hostages, but the business people will still ship their products against a boycott, and you can't make more than 12 cents profit on a box of grits, then the hostages to them, in their mind, represents $8 billion. So if the hostages never come back, the $8 billion never come back. And I think because of that attitude, I would strongly suggest that because the business community in America have violated the boycott, there is nothing that you cannot get in Iran that you couldn't get before. I think because of that, I would strongly suggest that in the release that $8 billion. If nothing else, it gets off the mind that it's a money thing. But most of the people in the street, and this is down to people that go into the stores and see the American products there, they really believe that if those hostages was killed in the morning, America would love it because it represents $8 billion.
Gregory said he did not see any of the hostages while in Iran, but did talk to some of the militants holding them. He predicted the militants would abide by whatever decision the Iranian parliament makes about the hostages' future. Gregory says he will continue his hunger strike until the situation is resolved and, strength permitting, dramatize his commitment by staging a symbolic walk for peace between New York and Washington later this week. Don Cladstrup, CBS News, Paris.
We've got the room, huh? Want to head over there? Okay. Dick, let's go down to the room.
Okay. Everybody know where we're going?
Yeah.
Okay. Jim.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk till I get in there and then we'll go. Fight that long and don't eat. They just bug you. So I went by and told them today, I said, I'm on your Concord tomorrow. I don't want nothing to eat. I don't want nobody waking me up.
Well, as you know, April passed, May passed, June passed, July passed, August has passed, and after about 4 or 5 false starts in the last 2 or 3 days, he's here. I'm sorry it's been a little bit chaotic trying to organize a meeting, but I wasn't sure at any time whether he was going to be here or not. I'd just like to read a little thing that appeared in a marked Tehran, and it's 2 days ago. Yeah. Black American civil rights activist Dick Gregory will be leaving Iran today. 4.5 months ago, 4.5 months after coming to Tehran, Gregory is to fly home. His trip to Iran was his own bid for world peace.
Us in deciding when the bomb's going to fall and when it's not. And I just feel that there is a God, and we have a force that's stronger than all nuclear bombs. If we use it, it's called prayer. And that's what I chose to do. My wife has been on a fast 1 day longer than me. I'm in 147, she's 148. I actually went over there for 3 days, 4 days. The reaction prompted me to stay. I didn't go over there to see nobody. I didn't go there to bother nobody. The same God that's responsible for Iranians and responsible for Americans, that force will determine when Jimmy Carter or Khomeini leaves. So when I'm in tune to that, that's the boss. And I felt the response was good, mainly because I didn't use that pack. If I can get my energy back by Friday, I intend to walk from the United Nations to the White House as a prayer vigil and sit in front of the White House and continue to fast. I don't know energy-wise if I'll be able to, but that's the plan that I have. I just really believe that that we can leave in knowing anything. I'm not bringing no messages. I didn't take none. I'm not bringing none. I have talked to some people in government. There were some suggestions that I had made, some suggestions they had made, but it was low echelons of the government. And so that's why
Dick, you said that you think the Russians are much more involved there than people realize. What signs did you see of that?
Power, there was 300 newspapers on the stand. Now there's 5, and one of them's a communist paper. And for a regime to be that anti-communist, Russia must have a hand involved to keep that communist newspaper on the stand in Iran.
Did you get any indication at all that your hunger strike was having any effect whatsoever on the Iranian students?
The only effect I had is a gentleman when I went to the army, but at least I can understand it. And if you fail to understand it, we're in trouble. And I think we can. I think the longer we wait, I think now a different deal would be cut now than 6 months from now. I think with the election going on, Jimmy Carter have to find a way out. I think the Iranian government now with the new parliament coming out. I think the ante is just, but I just feel myself that problem can be solved. One of the sad things is the average Iranian in the street do not believe America wants those hostages back alive. Now that's understandable when you see that yesterday I went in the supermarket and bought some grits, the same grits they use in the White House, Quaker Oats. I bought some Kool-Aid, and I bought some Nabisco shredded wheat, and I bought a pack of Winstons. Now, you can buy a pack of Winstons quicker in Iran than you can in New York. Now, the average person in the street feels that if the American government, if people are attacking Iranians in America because of the hostages, but the business people will still ship their products against a boycott, and you can't make more than 12 cents profit on a box of grits, then the hostages to them, in their mind, represents $8 billion. So if the hostages never come back, the $8 billion never come back. And I think because of that attitude, I would strongly suggest that because the business community in America have violated the boycott, there is nothing that you cannot get in Iran that you couldn't get before. I think because of that, I would strongly suggest that in the release that $8 billion, if nothing else, it gets off the mind that it's a money thing. But most of the people in the street, and this is down to people that go into the stores and see the American products there, they really believe that if those hostages was killed in the morning, America would love it because it represents $8 billion. And I would just like to see that part of it.
You stayed there, people came to see you.
I didn't see that many, just praying, get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and pray till 12 noon and go to bed at 8 o'clock every night.
You were there with several other members?
About 3 days.
But then the rest of the time you were alone?
By myself,
in that room?
Yeah, I've gone some periods of 3 weeks without talking to anybody. No Iranians, and then, in a country where you don't understand the language, it's kind of incredible. I'm a better person. I've really...
What exactly did you eat? You didn't eat anything during this period?
It depended. There were certain days, the first 8 days I was there, I did not eat or drink anything. The fact that after I realized that the amount of respect that some of the quarters was putting on a prayer vigil and a fast vigil, and I realized the faster I could lose weight, the more effect it would have. So this was the craziest fast I've been on. I would go 3 days sometime without taking anything, and then 1 day with water, or 3 days with fruit juice, and 2 days with water. And then every so often someone would come by, and the effect it had, it was just, I got a letter yesterday from the Revolutionary Guard that had just come back from Kirk's. And the respect that a soldier would write to someone that swore against killing and believed killing is wrong, it's just incredible. The effect of not eating. Everybody likes to eat.
Did you not eat at all in the entire period?
The whole period I've been there. And I don't intend to eat until something happens.
How do you feel?
It depends. When I got off the plane in Frankfurt, I was very weak.
How long are you going to be in Paris?
I'm leaving out tomorrow at 11 o'clock on the Concorde. I'll be in New York, and then I'll be in the dentist office. It's crazy.
We didn't ring home every day or anything.
You can. Well, not only that. You can ring home. For the next 3 days, they can call that number.
Thank you, Justin.
Voting in public side.
Circle, the unbroken by and
But a day is gonna be coming when our people will be unbroken by and by, nor by and by. There's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. Every person you may come to in this journey towards our help and understanding, people know they're not alone. Will the circle be there's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. Together for what work for what must be done. Love each other in all that is all my people are one. Right on, Patty. Get together for what work for what must be done. Love each other in all that is all my people are one. Kneel together for what must be done. Love each other in all that you do. Till all my people are one. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, brother.
Hey, fellas, for the press, give us a break. We're just stand back a little bit.
Have any
Hold it.
another lady over here. I need to try to hold her up.
You can process. As you walk and you think, whatever pictures you want, please don't interfere with
We clear now in the...
We have to get our speakers on, and then if we have time. Dick, would you please make your comments?
Let me first say that I thank and praise God that we made it here today. And let me say to Dolores and everybody who puts this energy out there, thank you. You know, we talk about what's legal and what's not legal. And, you know, as a 61-year-old black man, I remember slavery was legal, but it wasn't ethical. And if you put the energy out here and make people aware, things do happen. It was 6 of us that went to Kroger's and said, we'd like for you to take the rolling, the cigarette paper out of your stores. And they did it. $80 million profit just because someone was concerned. We wrote to 12 oil executives and told them the same thing about mini marks. Exxon just got in touch and say they will. When you bring certain things to people's attention and tell them the moral reason why. And I think what should encourage you all more than anything is cigarette smoking is legal in America, and people is hooked to it. And I used to smoke 4 packs a day. And when people put information out there, what happened, cigarette smoking is on a decline in America because the conscience level in people is becoming aware. We have less accidents by death from drunken driving today because the information is out there. And so as long as you put information out there, you're going to have one group of people that the minute they get that information, they're going to say yes and stop. And I think if you look at the Hustler magazines and all of those magazines, no one ever thought that some concerned people would go into 7-Eleven stores and they would have to put little bands around those. And so I just say, you know, what you're doing, you know, it's going to work. It's going to take, but we have to understand you have to interfere with the commerce of America. And if you don't interfere with the commerce, and we have to let folks know that we African Americans have $400 billion cash flow every year. And when you start letting folks know economically, and there's a lot of our children that listen to us. There's a lot of our children when we go and say, and a lot of our children, they have a strong economic force out there. But trust me, they get it from us. When I told my 10 black children they was all going to black colleges and they've been in white neighborhood, they started rumbling and my wife got upset. I said, trust me, none of them's working. You know, we finance these schemes. And so I just wanted to come here today and say thanks. And you have made a difference, and you will make a difference. And I would say in 1994, and finally let me say this, I feel real insulted living in a system that you can turn on Def Jam and see anything you want to see on there derogatory to black women. But if someone came up with a genius that black folks were singing opera every week better than anyone ever had, we couldn't find an hour every week to showcase that. And so it is very important that we go out there and deal with it and say to the whole world that we as black folks do care what is going on. And again, I just want to say thank you to the press and thank you to those of you who work so hard. Thank you. God bless you. WOL's position is the same as the ones that's been taken. I can't speak for WOL. Kathy was on her way here, but they have decided, along with the other stations, that they're not going to run that type of stuff. And again, we just say thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, for our next speaker, I asked him what kind of bio did he want. He said, I'm just a brother. Now, you tell me if anyone out there know Brother Dick Gregory.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me first say that we thank and praise God that we all made it here safely today. And we pray to God that your return and my return will be equally as safe. We told him. Black woman! Black woman! 2 years ago, Minister Farrakhan summons black men to Washington, D.C. And 1.5 million black women that day knew where your husbands was. Today, I say to black men all over America, if you're looking for your black woman and don't know where she is, she's in Philadelphia. She's in Philadelphia. God bless you. We say to you today, we black men thank you, sisters. We know you could do it. And do me one favor. Don't get caught up with the press talking about how many y'all was here. When they ask you how many, just say who gobs of black folks and let them figure out what who gobs mean. When we leave here today, we will go back home
with a new life and a new spirit. But understand, we are doing nothing new today. When they talk about the black family, we've always been the black family. The strongest two forces that ever existed in the history of America have always been the black woman and the black church. That's why both of y'all have always been under attack. And so I say to you today, this morning at 5:30, when I went out to the prayer vigil and I saw that rain coming down so strong, I say God has blessed the black woman, because no life can ever be born unless the water bag breaks ahead of it. And so we in a new life today. I leave you today, I say thank you, black woman. I say thanks to the black ancestors. Thanks to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that knew who he was. Thanks to the Martin Luther Kings, the Malcolm X, the Civil Rights Movement, the Dorothy Heights. Thanks to Dolores Tucker that took on gangster rap by herself. Not a black man, but a black woman. And I say to you, thanks to Maxine Waters that's been out here on the forefront saying to the CIA, we're not going to tolerate you bringing dope in the black community, then blaming it on the black family. The black family have never broken down. We hear them talk about we got to get back to the days of the family. When did America ever have a family? When they came over here and beat up and killed the Indians and stole their land? When they stole us and made us work for free? When a Jew couldn't walk down the street without changing their last name and their nose? When an Irish Catholic died just because they was Irish Catholics? When two Italians went to the lecture chair in Massachusetts just because their name was Sacco and Vanzetti? Ask the Irish, ask the Italians, ask the Asians, ask the Hispanics, ask the white women, when have we ever been a family? We are closer to a family today than ever before in the history of America. Take that back home, family. And I say to you, black woman, know who you are. People say it's not going to work. We don't know who these two sisters are. You don't have to know who black women are. Just know that they black women, and that's enough to know. And so I say to you, black woman, they don't call hurricanes hurricanes for nothing. The reason they're not hurricanes because hurricanes is named after the black woman. All hurricanes start in West Africa where the slaves was put on the ship. And all hurricanes stay under the water and follow the same path that the slave ship followed. No slave was offloaded on those ships until it got to the Caribbean. No hurricane jumps above water until it gets to the Caribbean. And then it hits this country and go all the way up the east coast to Maine. And Canada is right across the street from Maine. And Canada's never had a hurricane because Canada's never treated black women the way America has. Know who you are. Know your power. Know your strength. And I leave this with you. Listen to me good. Communications is the river. Understanding is the ocean. All of us determine how fast that river gets to the ocean is determined by how many dams you have to go through. Black woman, you've been through one dam after another. No, you are ocean. You are ocean. And so I say to you, when you look in the mirror at yourself, when you go back home, and black brothers, listen to me good, never ever again refer to your black woman as being strong and your pickup truck as being beautiful. Your pickup truck is strong and your black woman is beautiful. And understand that. And sister, know that. And I leave you with two things. A butterfly can fly all the way across the Atlantic Ocean. It can fly all the way across the Pacific Ocean, but the bald eagle can't make that trip. Know who you are, butterfly sister. Thank God we came to Philadelphia. Yeah. because a bunch of white men came to Philadelphia one day and they wanted to talk about liberty, but they didn't represent liberty, and they knew that. So they took a bell and they say, we will let the bell be the symbol of liberty, and they hit the bell, and God cracked that bell from the bottom all the way to the top. And anytime you look at the Liberty Bell, you're looking at a quack, quack, quack. When I look out here at you today, there's nothing quacked about your liberty. Black woman, keep on liberating us. Keep on leading us to freedom. And remember one thing, the CIA have dropped drugs in our neighborhood and blamed it on the black family. We have said to the CIA and to America, if they didn't give Maxine Waters the documents that she needed to prove the truth, then we were calling for a boycott against Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's on. And to my black sister, I say to you tonight, when the clocks get set back, I vow to you, black woman, with the pain you've been through, I will fast and pray and never eat another drop of food in my life until the CIA is out of business. Join me with prayer. Thank you. God bless you. Peace be with you.
Dick Gregory, everyone! Dick Gregory!
Legend and civil rights activist.
Dick Gregory has died. CBS 2's Christy Fajardo is live in Hollywood at Gregory's Star on the Walk of Fame with more on his life and his legacy. Christy.
Yes, Serene, Dick Gregory's talent and his fame earned him this star here on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. But tonight, his contributions to the civil rights movement is also being remembered.
Brother called me. They about to repossess my car. What must I do? Don't park in front of the house.
That was Dick Gregory in a 2009 TV special, but he became famous decades earlier in the early 1960s, satirizing segregation and racism. He was one of the first African-American comics to play white nightclubs. He began his career in the Army, but got his big break in 1961 when Hugh Hefner booked him at the Playboy Club. He was also the first black comedian to sit on the couch on The Tonight Show, and later used his celebrity to champion desegregation and equality, trading stand-up for sit-ins at civil rights rallies, and stayed active in politics over the years. Tonight, words honoring his legacy are pouring in on Twitter. Singer John Legend writes, Dick Gregory led an amazing revolutionary life, a groundbreaker in comedy, and a voice for justice. The Reverend Jesse Jackson tweeted, he taught us how to laugh, he taught us how to fight, he taught us how to live. Dick Gregory was committed to justice. I miss him already. And Whoopi Goldberg had this to say, tweeting, about being black in America, Dick Gregory has passed away. Condolences to his family and to us who won't have his insight to lean on. Now back out here live, Dick Gregory died in a hospital in Washington, D.C. He was 84 years old. He is survived by his wife and 10 children and legions of fans who are mourning him tonight.
Celebrating the life of a civil rights activist and comedian, Dick Gregory.
Yeah, fans are paying tribute to the man who so brilliantly used humor to fight against racism and to fight for social justice. And Ron is back with more. He had some brilliant
He really did. Dick Gregory died in Washington yesterday. He once said that humor can no more find the solution to race problems than it can cure cancer. True, but Gregory's edgy brand of comedy made a lot of people, white and black, at least do some hard thinking about those problems.
Dick Gregory was a trailblazer, one of the first black comedians to bring racially charged comedy to white audiences in the early 1960s.
I hate to see any baseball player having troubles, because that's a great sport for my people. That is the only sport in the world where a Negro can shake a stick at a white man and won't start no riot.
His first big break was an appearance on The Tonight Show in 1962. Gregory had only agreed to go on the show if he could sit down with host Jack Paar after his routine. Before then, African Americans appearing on the show would have to leave the set after performing.
When they say this show features living color, you better believe it.
One of the first black comedians with crossover appeal to white audiences, Gregory would become an outspoken activist for civil rights.
You can always laugh at problems that's right. Everyone in the whole world knows this is a wrong. So then you can make humor out of it, and matter of fact, you enlightening people.
He marched in Selma, Alabama in 1965, protested the Vietnam War, often staging hunger strikes. Later in his career, he went on to perform in TV specials, never losing his hallmark edge.
I came back in from Europe last month, CNN. Mr. Gregory, you think we'll ever catch bin Laden? I say, we. I ain't looking for him. I'm still trying to find out who my daddy is.
This morning, reaction to Gregory's death. Whoopi Goldberg calling him a fall-on-your-face laughing comedian. And singer John Legend, who produced a play about him, saying Dick Gregory lived an amazing, revolutionary life.
And a few years ago, Dick Gregory was asked how he wanted to be remembered. He said, quote, "I am the turtle, hard on the outside, soft on the inside, and willing to stick your neck out." He was 84 years of age and certainly willing to stick his neck out.
It's an important time to be having this conversation in America.
Absolutely. And very, very funny comic.
Absolutely.
One of the jokes that I read in the newspaper was he said that he spent 9 months at a sit-in at a lunch counter, and when it was finally integrated, they didn't have anything he wanted to eat.
All right, Ron, thanks for listening.